the BP oil spill. Y'all remember a year and a half ago now, the Deepwater Horizon rig operated by BP blew up in the Gulf of Mexico. 5.9 million barrels of oil spilled into the Gulf of Mexico. It's the biggest environmental disaster in the history of our country. Knock on wood, an awful lot of work's been done to clean it up. I urge you to go to the beach and eat Gulf seafood. It's fantastic and it's good or better than ever. Unfortunately, during the summer of the disaster and following up, we suffered tremendous economic and environmental damage in our state. So Alabama is leading the charge in the litigation against BP, and there are, as you can imagine, thousands of individual plaintiffs whose condos were damaged or their individual businesses were harmed. There are hundreds of lawyers representing those plaintiffs. There are 5 states, Florida around to Texas. There's the United States government, which had to spend a lot of money to help clean it up, and has got overall environmental responsibility. And then there are 8 deep-pocket defendants led by BP. BP has hundreds of lawyers, best lawyers in the world working on this case around the clock. It's going to be tried in New Orleans in February. It's been consolidated, and I know our judges are here today. They'll tell you this is a very extraordinary, complicated case. It's been handled in what's called a multi-district litigation proceeding, which is a big way of saying they've narrowed it down to representatives of all those groups I just told you about. I represent the states, which is a very important thing for the state of Alabama. The judge in the case appointed me the coordinating counsel for the states. So I spend 2 or 3 days a month in New Orleans, in the courtroom, representing the state's interest in this trial. There are maybe 12 lawyers representing all the private plaintiffs. There's 1 lawyer representing the United States and 1 lawyer for each defendant. So you can get us into a pretty average-sized conference room. And we're going to take the case and try it in February. And what's at stake? Potentially billions of dollars in damages covered for our state, the other states, and the United States from those responsible parties. That's lost tax revenue for our state, for education, school boards, counties, cities. It's economic damage that extends beyond that. There's a huge ripple effect. And it's also making sure we're compensated for all the money spent in fixing up our beaches, remediating them, and then putting aside enough money so that in the future, if a hurricane comes along and stirs up oil that we know is still out there in the Gulf, that we are that we're reimbursed or compensated for that. There are something called tar mats off the coast of Alabama and other coastal states. It's a residual oil that's sunk down to the bottom. It's an asphalt type of state. Hopefully it'll stay there and dissipate and we'll never see it again. But we know it's there. A hurricane comes along and grinds that up and sends it up on the beach. We need to make sure that we're going to be compensated. The other issue that we're dealing with in the BP BP situation is a guy named Ken Feinberg. Many of you, if you have a condo at the beach or if you have anybody that has a business there, has had to deal with Mr. Feinberg. BP gave him $20 billion. They pay him $1.5 million a month to manage that $20 billion and pay claims. That's what he's supposed to do. I've been very outspoken about his lack of responsiveness to the citizens who need the money, and we're continuing to pressure him. One way or another, you've got Mr. Feinberg and his private claims process, and you've got the litigation, the states and the other parties. We are going to, if I have anything to say about it, get every penny plus some that we're owed. And we're handling that case inside our office, so we've not hired any lawyers outside. We're working with outside lawyers, but I want every penny to go to the citizens of the state. That would be, in itself, a huge issue for our office to handle. But we have several others. I just came this morning from courthouse in Jefferson County, federal courthouse, and what is going to be the biggest bankruptcy proceeding, municipal bankruptcy proceeding in the history of the United States. Don't ask me what that means.